Tonight I shall relay a tale, if I so may, of a game you'll have to play. No matter if you're young or old, a fairy tale you shall be told. The princess fighting oh so fair, this video on social media you'll want to share. Her comrades always by her side, to rid the world of evil's might. With fairy wings she's taking flight, for this, my friends, is Child of Light. What is good, everyone, and welcome to a very special episode of the Backlog Project, our very first Christmas special. And what better way to celebrate than a review of the game that is basically an interactive fairy tale? When this experimental Ubisoft title came out in 2014, players and critics alike adored the unique setting, gorgeous art style, and interesting gameplay mix. Since then, I haven't really seen a lot of talk about the game, so I was positively surprised when you guys voted for it to be featured on the show. Now, get cozy, grab yourself a nice hot cocoa, or whatever you prefer, and let's explore the magical world of Child of Light. There's actually nothing in it. You might be wondering why I opened the video with a poem, so let me explain. As I said, Child of Light's setting, presentation, and writing are all pretty much a fairy tale, which means that all of the game's script is written in rhyme. From voiced cutscenes and important story sections to random NPC dialogue and even casual banter between your party members between battles, everything rhymes. As if that wasn't impressive enough, the game somehow manages to still be fairly easy to read and follow, as well as not make the characters feel overly fabricated. The whole narrative just flows very well and immerses you into the world unlike any game I've ever played. Our story starts in 1895 Austria, where Aurora lives with her father, the Duke, stepmother, and her two stepsisters. However, Aurora dies to unknown cause, leading her father to fall into deep depression and Austria suffering in the absence of their leader. Miraculously, Aurora awakes on an altar in the land of Lemuria, filled with mystery, magic, and dangerous wildlife, where she meets Ignicholas, a firefly that leads her to meet the Queen of Light. Upon meeting her, the Queen tells her that Aurora is the chosen Child of Light, and her task is to recover Lemuria's light by finding the sun and the moon and defeat Umbra, the evil Queen of the Night. Only then will she be able to return to her father's side. The Queen of Light grants her 3 boons: a sword, a flute, and the stars, which enables Aurora to fly. The story follows Aurora on her journey through Lemuria, where she meets a colorful cast of characters like Robert, a trader whose goal is to find riches to impress his beloved, or Rubella, a jester that always messes up her rhymes and has to get corrected by one of the other party members. Each character is unique, fun to have around, and the whole party forms a dynamic that reminds me a lot of older Final Fantasy games. Rubella in particular is just absolutely perfect. Whoever had the idea to include a character that just cannot rhyme is an absolute genius. It's always funny to see her end a perfectly obvious rhyming opportunity with a word that would be used in your average sentence. Allegedly, Child of Light's art style was influenced by Studio Ghibli films and Amano Yoshitaka, Final Fantasy's character and logo designer. And I can totally see that. The whole game is drawn in beautiful watercolors that look absolutely gorgeous in motion. However, it's not just the graphics themselves that make this game look unforgettable, but the character and level designs. Every character looks like they come straight out of a Ghibli movie, be it the dwarf-like Capilli or anthropomorphic mice called Populi. Add to that the areas not only being beautifully drawn, but also being incredibly creative, with waterfalls flowing from floating islands to deep caves full of lava and ice, and you get a visual experience that is not only stunning, but also one of a kind. Soundtrack-wise, Ubisoft made a bold decision by having it composed by Coeur de Pirate, a Canadian singer-songwriter who had never before written a score for a video game and also hasn't since. And I just can't figure out why, because the music in Child of Light is absolutely phenomenal. Some of the most beautiful, melancholic piano pieces I have ever heard, supported by an ensemble of strings and woodwinds, accompany Aurora on her journey through Lemuria. Then you get into combat and are hit by epic orchestra pieces that very much feel like a westernized version of Uematsu Nobuo's work, always giving you the drive to fight off any enemies you encounter, never to give up until you save the world from its peril. So much love, care, and dedication were poured into this score that you can literally feel it while playing through the game, and every time you think back on Aurora's journey, it will be accompanied by this amazing music. Child of Light is a mix between a puzzle platformer and an old-school turn-based RPG. That means you will be running and flying around expansive levels filled with admittedly simple puzzles, traps, optional paths, and treasure behind every corner. Even though the combat is very much inspired by old-school JRPGs, there are no random battles, so you can choose to engage enemies or just skip them if you're not up for a fight. If you do decide to fight, a short transition will put you in the combat screen, where 2 of your party members face off against up to 3 enemies. If you're familiar with ATB combat, you'll feel right at home here. If not, here's a quick explanation. ATB stands for Active Time Battle, which describes a combat system where units perform their actions in turns, but when exactly they will perform it is based off their speed. See that line in the bottom of the screen and the character icons floating from left to right? In simple terms, once an icon reaches the right side of this line, they will be able to perform an action. Child of Light, however, throws in a little twist to make this system feel a bit more modern. Casting time. The red portion of the line indicates a phase where your character casts or charges up their chosen action. You choose the action when you reach the red part, and once you cross the whole red line, your character executes it. If, however, your character takes damage while casting, the action will be cancelled and said character will be put back to around the middle of the turn bar. This adds a lot of strategy to the otherwise rather simple combat. Not only do you want to avoid being interrupted, you also always try to time your attacks in a way that will interrupt your enemies. To aid you with that, your right stick, or a second player, controls Ignicolus that can freely float around the battlefield and shine his light onto enemies to slow them down, or on your heroes to heal them. What is an interesting but not all that important aspect to combat on casual difficulty will make or break your fights against even normal enemies on expert. Yes, there's no in between. You will constantly be keeping an eye on the bar, choosing the right actions with the appropriate casting times to ensure your heroes always keep the upper hand in combat, while managing Ignicolus to slow an enemy who is about to get off a dangerous attack or keep your party alive. Did I mention that you can freely swap between your characters without losing a turn, and each of the 8 heroes has their own set of abilities, ranging from offensive magic, supportive abilities like taunts or slow spells, to healing and defensive magic. As you can see, there's a lot to learn in the combat of Child of Light that you can use in the challenging but always fair fights on your way to defeating the evil Umbra. As I said earlier, exploring the continent of Lemuria will reward you with tons of treasure, ranging from combat items like healing potions to stat increases for your party and Oculi, the game's equipment system. Each of your characters has 3 equipment slots: offensive, defensive, and supportive. You can put oculi into these slots, and depending on the color of the oculi, will receive different enhancements to your characters. Among these are adding elemental damage to your attacks, giving your character more HP, and even more creative bonuses like giving attacks a chance to paralyze enemies or giving your party more XP after a fight. Not only do oculi come in different colors, they also have 4 different qualities or sizes. To increase the quality of an oculi, you need to combine 3 of the same kind, which will result in 1 of the next higher quality. You can also combine stones of different colors to get completely new ones. This system allows for a lot of experimentation and personalizing your party to your specific playstyle, or an upcoming fight where ability X might be more useful than ability Y. Another way of customizing your party is skill trees, and each character gets 3. Child of Light wouldn't really be much of an RPG without level ups and skill points, would it? Each of these trees is filled with active and passive abilities, as well as stat increases that are tailored towards one skill set of the associated character. For example, Aurora's skill trees focus on her sword, quick but comparatively weak magic, and devastating spells with a very long cast time. By just playing through the game, you will easily complete 1 tree on each character, maybe 2 if you fight a lot of battles. Fully decking out each path for each character will take a lot of grinding though, and is wholly unnecessary. Child of Light isn't all that long. My playthrough only lasted roughly 8 hours and doesn't really offer much in terms of side quests or even post-game content. There are a handful of side quests scattered throughout the game world, most of which are simply done by killing a few monsters or finding an NPC, and they all just reward you with some oculi or other items, so you're not missing a lot here. The game also offers no post-game challenges, no super bosses, no secret dungeon, nothing. Once you beat the game, you're done. Well, technically you could go and find all of the treasure hidden throughout Lemuria, but there really isn't any incentive for doing so, because what would you need these items for if you've already beaten every enemy in the game? The only thing worth getting, and tied to an achievement, are so-called confessions. 16 letters, mostly hidden in unlikely places, that you can read once collected. These confessions drop some heavy lore bombs about the world and setting of the game. Is Lemuria a fantasy world, or actually part of the Earth as Aurora knows it? Why are the Queen of Light and Umbra fighting? The letters answer these and some more questions, while creating even more. My guess here is that this was supposed to be used in the sequel that, according to producer Patrick Blord, didn't get greenlit because Ubisoft wanted to double down on their AAA franchises. And that is probably the greatest shame associated with this game, the fact that it could have spawned sequels, was successful enough to do so, but was shut down by Ubisoft. Let's ring the bell of shame for Ubisoft for a moment.
Shame! Shame! Shame!
Hope you've been enjoying the video so far. You can really help me out by giving it a like so more people get to see it. Thank you. I went into Child of Light expecting a nice little game without depth and a fairy tale gimmick that would get old really fast. And boy was I wrong. Not only is the setting so well executed, it doesn't feel tacked on, it's supported by everything the game does. Beautiful art and world design, a heavenly music score, and a fun combat system make Child of Light into a magical adventure that you need to embark on if you're even remotely into RPGs or find the setting to be interesting. I promise you, you will not regret it. How about we finish this video off the same way it started, with a little poem. Experience this game you have before, or maybe missed, to greatest woe. Your stance on this, I'd love to know. Go tell me in comments below. And here we are at this tale's end. I hope you think your time well spent. Now go on, play some games, chop chop, and never let your backlog stop.